Welcome everyone to We the People's Forum, a Braver Angels event where everyday Americans get time at the podium. The purpose of We the People's Forum is to hear from everyday Americans on the issues of the day. We hear from people of all races, classes, places, and politics, and we are especially interested in hearing from working class Americans. We the People's Forum is brought to you by We the People's Project Leadership Team at Braver Angels. To learn more, you can visit braverangels.org/WPP. My name is David Lapp. I'm a co-founder of Braver Angels. As I just said, I was born and raised in Lancaster County, now live in South Lebanon, Ohio. And I'm the director of the We the People's Project at Braver Angels and part of a team of about 10 of us who are leading this initiative. So our forum tonight is higher education, a bridge or a barrier for the working class. Tonight's forum is being co-sponsored. We have some wonderful co-sponsors tonight, hence the heavy Maryland and Pennsylvania representation. Allegheny County, Maryland's Choose Civility Initiative is co-sponsoring this, as well as the following student clubs at Allegheny College of Maryland: the NAACP Student Club, the Peace Club, and the Student Government Association. Our format tonight is that we'll spend the first half of tonight with our four main speakers setting the conversation table. Then during the second half, we'll expand the conversation to include everyone else. And during that second half, we want to hear from everyone here about your personal experiences of higher education, including people who decided not to enter, not to go to higher education and to go straight into the workforce or to receive vocational training. So we want to hear about your experiences about all of that. And of course, anyone is also welcome to ask a question during that second half. So again, during the first half, we have a panel conversation with our four main speakers. During the second half, everyone will be invited to join in the conversation. Our ground rules for our conversation are the same as at some of our main Brave Angels workshops. There's 4 of them. First is we're here to understand others and to explain our views, not to convince anyone to change their mind. Second, let's stick to speaking for ourselves and not try to represent any outside group. Third, let's stick to the spirit of the activities designed for each stage of this meeting. So for example, if the question is sharing our own personal experience of the issue or asking a question, that's all we do then, even if it means resisting the urge to expound further upon our own opinion. Finally, it's standard stuff that we all know: taking turns, not interrupting others, listening to everyone, being respectful. In other words, bringing our best selves to the conversation. So let's get right into it. Our speakers tonight, our main speakers are Annette Ritter, Annette Ritter, Brittany Harpster, Nikita Hall, and Ramelo Davis. They are all students at Allegheny College of Maryland, and they'll tell us more about themselves as we enter the conversation here. So to our main speakers, welcome to We the People's Forum. Very glad that we're here together. So I think all or most of us will find out are first-generation college students and studying currently at a community college. Annette, I think you are a first-generation college student. So Annette, I want to start with you. First, begin by telling us your own experiences with college. And then second, from your vantage point, do you think that our system of higher education is working well for all Americans, or is it deepening existing financial divides?
Okay. I've actually been a community college student twice. The first time I entered community college was in 1998, and I had to get my GED first in order to get into college because I'd never graduated from high school. I did pass, I did graduate. It was a huge struggle for me for a lot of different reasons. But I did end up getting an associate's in office systems technology, which in 2001 when I was 44. So I thought I was an older student then, and that was my first degree. It helped me to get a lot of good jobs because at that time, computer sciences, it was still fairly new. We'd gone from the great big things to smaller, more useful computers, and it was really coming into its own. But then that degree, even though I'd had experience in other human service type work, wasn't what I needed in 2019 to get into the fields of victim services and human service type work that I was trying to get into. Everywhere I went, I kept hitting doors that would close and say, "Well, you need to have a degree. You need to have a degree." And so
You
at
already had an associate's degree, am I
right,
right?
exactly, but it wasn't the right degree. That was in office systems. That wasn't in human service or social work or any of that kind of thing. So it wasn't accepted for what I needed it for. So I was 62. I didn't like my options. I was tired of doing database and things like that. I missed being able to help people. I wasn't happy in the jobs that I could get there. So I decided I would look into getting into college again and getting that degree they kept harping on. And so in August of 2019, I took a huge leap. At 62, I took early retirement because it was an option, and I can't just have my husband make all the money and I don't throw anything in at all. So at least I had a little tiny bit of income coming in. And surprisingly, I did really well there. I found my passion. I wasn't real sure going in if that was going to work for me. I didn't know how I was going to do it for a lot of reasons, but you're never too old. So um, I'm going to be graduating at 65, which is bizarre. I don't even know how the hell that happened, honestly. I mean, but there have been people that were older than I graduating from college, so more power to us. And anyway, so it wasn't just human services. Also am getting an addictions counseling certificate, which is where my real passion lies. And
And Annette, sorry to interrupt. I don't know if it's coming from you or from somewhere else. There's some like papers shuffling that's kind of
not mine.
interrupting a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not me because
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's all quiet here.
We'll figure it out.
Okay. Anyway, on the second part, kind of the financial divide is not working for people like me. People like me being older students, people who may have a partner or a full-time job or some separate income that kind of kicks them out of getting any kind of grants that would help pay for education. Um, I've got student loans that the first time I paid off only because somebody died and I got money, and this time I'll pay it back by working. Um, the things that are available to some students were not available to me when I'm trying to get into a slightly higher level and go for a bachelor's, because there again, it's more opportunity to get a little bit of a bump in pay,
So you're
especially if,
going to try to go for a bachelor's after this.
yeah, and that's really at my age and at everything else taking into consideration, that's really as high as I want to go or I feel I need to go. But the thing is, I've discovered that while I'm able to get some help through Maryland in-state transfer help with tuition, I can't get the same kind of tuition help I got at the college because I need to work for one thing, and financially, it's kicked me out of a lot of things I might be able to get help with because my husband makes too much.
Hmm.
It's not my income, mind you. My own income is not much of anything, but they don't go on that. They go by the full income. Um, $300 a credit when you're talking minimum 6 credits per what 8 weeks is a lot of money for a bachelor's degree. I'm going on a wing and a prayer personally.
Hmm.
I've got scholarships I'm hoping to get and things like that. But
And Annette,
yeah,
am I right that so basically you were earlier in life, you had an associate's degree, you were trying to get into a job that you basically thought that you were already qualified for and had
right,
experience for, but
yeah,
because they needed uh, at least an associate's degree or something in this particular field, you had to go back to community college. And I
Yes.
think you're probably voicing some frustration about the fact that you had to go back to college to get that. Is that
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, that's part of it because I feel like my experience, my skills, and the things that I already have, I should have been able to get a job in the field I wanted. Maybe not addictions, but at least
Hmm.
in victim services, for which I did have 5 years of good education in,
Got
or
it.
experience in, I should say.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
Annette, let's leave it there for now. I know there's much more
okay.
to say. Let's broaden the conversation and bring in Ramelo. So Ramelo, let's rewind the tape here a little bit and go back to high school. And so first, tell us about in your high school experience, Ramelo, what did you hear and what did you not hear in high school about college or job training? And then what did you do? What did you do after high school? And why did you decide to eventually enroll in college?
Um, what I heard in high school, I didn't really hear too much about college. I may have heard a few things as far as like, if you want to better your life, you go to college. Um, in order to be under this roof, you got to go to college or go to trade school. That was really the only thing that I really got from it. When I got out of high school, uh, I didn't graduate, so like I didn't pass the ninth grade. So I didn't get to the 10th, 11th, or the 12th. So by the time I turned 17, 18, up until I was about 23, 24, I had worked over 25 jobs. So this is where it ranges from like the warehouse, customer service, serving, gas stations, Walmarts, cleaning houses, things of that nature. And so during that time, at some point, I believe at 23, no, 21, I'm lying. Yeah, at 21 is when I attempted to try to start getting my GED. And it took me about a year and a half, I believe. I started, no. Yeah, I started a year and a half. I started September of 2016. I got my GED February of 2018. What made me want to go to college, I think this is your next question. What made me want to go to college was just the experience that I've had in literally every field, having to work 3 to 4 jobs and trying to maintain income for myself, housing, and the people that I was providing for as well at a young age, and to see the low pay that I was receiving. This was just another route. I mean, I've done almost everything I could imagine. So to come here was just, it was another, like I said, it was another route for me to try to experience something different, give myself another opportunity for other things. I think that's
Hmm.
all of your questions.
Yeah, and what did you, so what are you studying now, Ramelo?
Okay, currently I'm studying sociology. When I first got here, it was psychology. And it didn't become sociology until I had to take science and I wanted to drop it. And so my advisor told me that if I come back if I come back next semester and take science, I actually get my degree in sociology. So once I heard that is then when I enrolled into sociology courses, and I got my degree in psychology this past December after enrolling in 2019, and now I'm about to get my sociology degree up in this upcoming May.
Hmm. So basically, you were working, did you say 3 or 4 jobs at one time for a period there?
Yeah, 3 or 4 jobs at one time. 3 or 4 jobs at one time from 17 to 21, and then I worked 4 jobs, and the fifth one was going to school getting my GED on like
Mhm.
Tuesday and Wednesday. And
Yeah,
that
and
was from
so
21 to 23, and then I came to school at 24.
gotcha. And I see some hands that are raised. We're going to wait to call on people until the second half of the conversation. So I see the hands, but we're just going to invite you to lower the hand, and we'll go to that during the second half of the conversation. So Brittany Harpster, let's bring you in here. So, I mean, I would say, and I speaking for myself, as somebody who, was most of the people in my family work in blue collar work that don't necessarily require 4-year college degrees. And I think I kind of picked up, that there was this expectation and story that if you're going to succeed, that you need to get a college degree. And so I'm wondering, in your experience, is that a helpful message? And responding to that, tell us a little bit about your story of how you entered college and what that's been like for you.
Okay, so as far as needing like a college degree to succeed, am I correct in
Yeah,
saying that that's what you were asking?
right.
I think it kind of depends on what your definition of success is. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to college to make a ton of money, or if you're going to college to do something you love for the rest of your life, because I think that the idea of you want to go to college to make, be successful and be rich, in my opinion, is unrealistic because that was my idea when I first came in, is thinking, oh, I want to go get a college degree so I can have all this money. But I quickly found out that my main purpose in going to college should have been, and is now, after, learning a lot of lessons, is because I really just want to be in a field that I love for the rest of my life. So that's what I call succeeding. And I think that if you find your way without going to college and you're, happy in what you're doing for the rest of your life, then you're succeeding without college. But in my case, uh, the field that I wanted to be in required a college degree for me to feel, internally successful, and rewarded at the end of the day. So I think that question could go a lot of ways. I think it just depends on how you think of success.
So, Brittany, are you the first person in your family to go to college?
Yeah, I am. Yep, I'm a first year college student. So I kind of came in this really blindly, had no idea what I was doing. I basically, all I know was I had to go into the college and I had to apply, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, that was the worst part for me, is just like I had no idea what to expect. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that as a first generation college student as well. The feeling of, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for this? What do I do? Where's the application? And oh, just so many questions.
Yeah.
Now, so you said that you entered it with this kind of mindset of, okay, well, I'm going to go and so I can make a lot of money. And you're now at the point you're thinking, well, that's not a great reason to go to college because it doesn't necessarily mean, depending on what you're doing, that you're going to make a lot more money. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, so I can elaborate on that just a little more, just from my experience. So whenever I was deciding what I wanted to go to school for, I thought, I want to go be a nurse anesthetist because they make the big bucks. That's all I was thinking about. So I went through all of my, you have to get your registered nurse degree and things. So I was almost in the program, and the students would come. I was in some of the general education classes that they were taking for their program. And they had come in crying often. And like, I realized quickly that this is not what it's about. I want to do something that I'm not going to cry about, every day until I'm done with school. I want to be excited to go to school. And it took me up until I was almost in a program that, wouldn't have been rewarding to me, all for the money,
Mhm.
and all that time and all that money that I put in, but I really did learn that lesson at the end of it, so there was a bright side to that. But the idea of I just want to go in and I want to make these big bucks and be a nurse anesthetist really took me back whenever I saw the students coming in and being so overwhelmed and crying. And I thought, that's not success to me. So I mean, to them all, I mean, God bless them, because I couldn't do it myself, but I'm really grateful for that experience as well.
Mhm. And Nikita, let's talk for a little bit here about the finances of getting a college degree. How much of a barrier, in your experience, is finances for working class people when it comes to attending college? And for you personally, has college proven mainly to be a bridge or a barrier to success?
Okay, well, that's a good question. So a little bit of background about me. I am a non-traditional college student, which, I'm a mother of 4 children. And I also work, so I'm considered the working class. And it's a struggle because college is expensive, period. Community college is a little bit more affordable than university, which I am graduating in May, and I am going to be attending a 4-year university. And, just thinking about what it's going to cost me to get my bachelor's and eventually my master's degree it's already causing some anxiety. I will say that now in my experience being at a community college, I do get scholarships, I get financial aid. I get grants. I utilize my resources to free money, but it can be a barrier to some people who are considered the working class because, we're working to meet the basic needs, food, shelter, providing, financial support to our families. But, it's not enough for us, the caregivers, the providers, because we're busy providing for our families that, we probably don't have the means to go on to higher education, especially if we're not eligible, because, on paper, it looks like we're making tons of money, but in reality, we're not. So, some people, such as, myself, they, can only thrive on scholarships, grants, free money that they don't have to pay back. And if you don't, apply for, financial aid, if you don't submit your FAFSA in time, then you're pretty much out of luck of getting financial aid. So, that can be a barrier to a lot of people. I know a lot of people in my personal life who would love to go back to school because it will enhance the quality of their life, but they can't afford it. And can higher education be a bridge or a barrier? Absolutely. It could be a bridge, if you have that equal opportunity to go. But if you can't afford it, then it can be a barrier to a lot of people.
Now, for you, Nikita, how have you made that work with being you're a caregiver and so how do you make it work?
How do I make it work? Like I said, well, for one, as a caregiver, I work direct support for developmentally disabled individuals. So I work overnights, I work 40 plus hours a week. And, as I'm getting off from work, I go to school. So, and I work very hard in school, an equal amount of blood, sweat, and tears that I put into my job. I do that in school. So I am able to, get scholarships because I do put a lot of hard work into my education. And it isn't easy, but, I love free money, to pay for my education, or else I would be working 40 plus hours just to pay for school.
Right.
So, I utilize my resources, I work my butt off in school so I can be eligible for scholarships. That's the best way.
And you are working towards your degree is in what?
I'm also in the human service program. So in May, I will get my associates in human services, and I will transfer up to Frostburg State to join the social work department.
And so a social worker, that's what your job is.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so let me ask some of the Annette, Brittany, Ramelo, tell me in your kind of, your short description of it. For you, has college mainly been a bridge or a barrier to success? Anyone jump in? Annette, Ramelo, Nikita,
I'll go.
Brittany, go ahead, Annette.
For me, because of the program that I'm in and what I want to do, aside from the financial thing, it's definitely a bridge because I'm getting internships in at places that I may work at when I graduate. It's certainly got given me on the job training. Um, it's opened up all kinds of different fields and connections. We're a small county. Allegheny County is small, so that these internships, people know people that know people, and if you're any good at what you're doing, it gets around. And I've already had, a couple of interview offer kind of deals come up before graduation. So it's in that respect, it's definitely a bridge for me.
Mhm. So there have been challenges like you wish that you wouldn't have had to repeat it, but overall, the experience this time around, it's meant that you're going to get the training that you need for what you want to do.
Yeah.
Ramelo and Brittany, I'm curious, what's your brief response to this? Has college mainly been a bridge or a barrier for you, or to be determined? Brittany, go ahead. I'm wondering what you think about that.
I think as far as financially, it's been a barrier because I haven't been able to work. I mean, I know I could, but my brain just is overwhelmed. But otherwise, it's been a quite the bridge for me. I think I've had a lot of growth, and just like Annette, I've done a lot of networking and made a lot of connections with people that are going to help me in the future. You know, but as far as I want to call it a bridge. Yeah.
What about you, Ramelo?
Yeah, I would say it's a bridge for me, for sure. I've sold a lot of opportunities here, and there have been opportunities, countless opportunities available for me here. I guess to a degree, it's a barrier considering the amount of work that everybody's life is different. So there's other obligations that I have. However, this put me in a different thinking transition and process. So I've kind of appreciated this a little bit more than any other life I could experience.
So positive experiences, some challenges there. Let's think a little bit about, let's think about if you all were in charge, Annette, Ramelo, Brittany, and Nikita. Let's say you were put in charge of America's system of higher education. I'm wondering about how, if at all, you would set it up, our system of higher education differently, if you would set it up differently in any way. And also, if you were in charge and could set things up the way you think it should be run, what would not be the message to people about college and job training, and what would be the message? So either of those questions, feel free to take it. If you were in charge, how would you set up our system of higher education differently? And what would not be the message about college and job training, and what would be the message? Take any of that. And I want to go to you first, Brittany, on that. Go ahead, Brittany.
Whenever you ask that, I kind of go back to that idea of thinking of it as an opportunity to do something that you love for the rest of your life. And I know that I sound like a broken record, but that is the biggest lesson that I've learned. I think that it should be advertised I'm not saying billboards, but I'm saying like it should be advertised as more of an opportunity to do something that you love for the rest of your life, versus you're gonna come out on top with all this money, because I don't think that people understand how much debt that you can possibly go into, and especially when you're like me and you go in so blindly. There's a lot of opportunity there, but I think that it's the public view is a little bit different than what it should be. So
Nikita, how about you? When you think about solutions, what do you think about?
I have a lot of solutions to this to this problem, but the one that I'm going to stick with is I do like the fact that some professions or some majors they allow internship opportunities. Like I'm really heavy on internships because it's through internships that you can really find like where you belong, if you belong in that particular career. So I would really stress some type of like work experience opportunity because, you know, upon graduation, whenever you go and apply for a job, usually, you know, on the job description, you know, it will say that you need to have 2 or 3 years of experience. Well, in our program in human services, we have 3 internships, um, throughout the program that gives us the opportunity to see, is this the career that we really want to go into? And it gives us that experience. So, you know, I can plug all of that, you know, experience, 2 years of experience through internships on the resume. So I would like highly stress every profession or every major that someone, you know, is entering, that they have some type of internship, externship, apprenticeship, so they can get that firsthand experience. You know, that's where the real learning comes in, and I think it's more relevant than just taking classes.
And when it comes to, you talked about finances, I'm curious, and this is maybe a little bit of a controversial question, or I mean, the position is controversial. Would you be in favor of something like free community college at least, or free college for everyone, or is that something that you would have concerns about?
I do believe in free community college. However, they really need to gauge that a little bit. They would have to, you know, assess it to the ones who are really serious about it. I wouldn't like hand free money, you know, to somebody that will not take advantage of that opportunity. Like, absolutely. Or, you know, if not free, let it be way more affordable than what it is now. You know, as a college student, books, you know, they're super expensive. So I feel, you know, some professors need to look into making, you know, books more affordable for college students. You know, I'm heavy on that. So if I have to pay tuition, at least, you know, let me be able to afford the materials that we have to use for the class.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. We're going to open it up here soon, but I want to get Annette and Ramelo's comments on this. And Annette and Ramelo, I'm thinking here as well, when we're talking about how could the system of higher education be reformed and how could it work differently? Maryland actually recently, this was a March 2022 story. I'm reading from an NPR story here. Maryland is officially dropping the 4-year college degree requirement from many state jobs, Governor Larry Hogan announced. The state is launching what the governor calls a first in the nation workforce development program to recruit qualified workers who do not hold college degrees. And so that was just, a couple weeks ago that was announced. Feel free to comment on that, or so I guess that points to the idea that, I guess, Annette, what you were talking about, where moving towards a society in which we recognize the value of a college degree, but also loosening up and recognizing that people who have work experience might be just as qualified as somebody with a college degree. Otherwise, go ahead. Annette, your thoughts on what you would do to if you were in charge of higher education, and what would the message be that you would give?
Well, the message is that everyone has value, you know, and I would make sure that in like early high school, that we took out home ec, we took out woodworking, we took out all of the trade type of things out of the school systems, basically, or at least out of most schools. So I would put trade training, you know, real life training into the schools again, for one thing. But also on the college level, I would make sure that the colleges, from community colleges up, if it were at all possible, to have like people that have majors in like early childhood and that sort of thing. If there were childcare on campuses, The community college I went to in North Carolina, it was a small community college. We didn't have on-campus housing, but we did have childcare on campus,
Mm,
free to students, and the students, it was student run, basically. It was supervised, of course, but students who were learning early childhood care and that sort of thing, early education, those are the ones that watched those children. And if people had more access to childcare and didn't have to worry about their kids while they were going to college, it takes a lot of stress off of people.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, access to childcare is a big one. Ramelo, for you, when you think about solutions and address, what would you do if you were in charge?
Um, okay, so it's actually funny because I have a lot of this written down. So one of the things that I would do if I were in charge, if I was in charge, well, I think to begin with, to start at the high school level, even afterwards, or even in high school level, or even in middle school, like there got to be some type of certifications or internships available for youth and some type of job readiness experience that they can endure so they can be able to understand what it's like to work in a real life setting or even just be able to function in a real life setting. I understand having to, do the requirements of the other subjects, but just this isn't this isn't a shot at it. This is like just the ignorance, the not knowing, people of not knowing coming out of school and then going into life and being unable to interact with others. Even for instance, the people who are unable to get their diploma and they have to get their GED. Some may not even know how to obtain it. And never be told that. And so, for instance, with that is some of those or all of those classes you study individually, and then you can take each test at one point at different times through different programs. But essentially, so what I'm trying to say is that I think if we have programs in high schools and in middle schools, and we have people who are able to talk to them and can relate to them and inform them of how to be able to get to certain places in college or even surpass that, then they can be able to acknowledge the opportunities that they have after that. As far as like in college already being there, just having internships available, having programs. You have to send me that article regarding they're cutting out the 4-year thing and for the 2 years, and like I can't say it verbatim, but I need that article. But it's things like that. It's just having something in college available for students and even community colleges and for students where when they get out of here in 2 years, at least when they get out, they don't have to do another additional 2 to 3, 4 years. They can be able to have that. I have internships here and I've had job readiness experience as well as outside of my classes, opposed to having an entire 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 class schedule. I think that answers your question. I think
Yeah. So
that's what I would have in there.
making the degree from community colleges really count, for instance, with the internships that you get and the degree, that really you don't necessarily need to get further education in some instances. That could be what you need for your job.
And I think it's also one more thing. I don't mean to overtalk. I
Sure.
think also, you know, if we have all of these, as I was saying about the high school thing, even adults, if we have this in college and just other places in general, some people don't know how to approach interviews in just certain settings and stand within their own skin. And so I think these things should. I mean, these aren't like programs that I'm naming, but I'm just saying these are just certain variables that come into play when people come into college or come into the real world or graduate, and then it's time to get a job, but they don't know how to interview, or when they get the job, they don't know how to maintain a work schedule and things of this nature. So, it has to be some type of structure, taught just as well. I think that should be provided also. I know we're adults, but at the same time, that knowledge isn't necessarily in everyone.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Well, let's open this discussion to everyone. And so we want to expand this conversation. If you have direct experience about higher education or job training, we want you to join the conversation. And we especially want to hear from first-generation college students or people who decided not to go to college and went straight to the workforce. So if you've got experience to share, raise your hand, and I already see hands, and take up to 3 minutes to share your experience. And we do ask that you in your response that you major, that you mostly are talking about your experience rather than, you know, your opinion about it. You can, if you're talking about your experience, feel free to insert your opinion, but we really want to hear about your experiences, just because we find that it's in sharing our experiences that tends to be the most depolarizing and the most interesting as well. So, and also anyone is welcome to ask a question of any of our speakers. If you do ask a question, I want to encourage you to think about elements of a good question of clarification and understanding. This is taken from our Red Blue workshop. There's 4 aspects of this to a good question. 1, it's not a gotcha question. 2nd, you want to learn something about someone else, something you're curious about, versus wanting the other person to learn from your question, right? It's actually a question. And it's a question that the person can actually answer, and it's straightforward and doesn't carry an assumption that the other person might dispute. Some elements of good question, if you're asking a question, for you to consider. Let's get right into it. Julie, I see you've got your hand up. Julie, do you have a comment about your experience or a question?
More of a comment, but I just first want to say that everybody on the panel, my hat is off to you. I just have such deep admiration for your determination and perseverance, and I don't know where you get your energy, but I was exciting to hear that each of you kind of have a juncture ahead of you where you feel like you're getting somewhere with your pursuits, and I'm just proud of you and happy for you. And it speaks to my comment. When I think about this issue, it's mostly about other people's perceptions of whether somebody has a college degree or not. So I went to 1 year of college, and my experience was so different from my peers at the time. I had my parents were kind of free thinkers, and for better or for worse, didn't push us kids to go to college, didn't assume we would, and were very, you know, happy with us taking time off after high school. I took more than a year off, and then so I was a little bit older than my peers when I started, and they were still very like, well, they would say pressured by their parents to, you know, all the grades coming in, their parents wanted to see them. And in my parents, again, for better for worse, my parents were just like, hope you're having a great time up there, you know, or hope it's interesting. And then I ran into some mental health issues. I had a lot of depression, and I ended up dropping out, and already being a little older. I started a family really young, and 3 kids later, I'm fully in the workforce. Again, Nikita, my hat is off to you. I can't fathom. But the point is that I never went back, and this part, my hat is off to where is she? Annette. I'm turning 60 in September, so who knows, right? But throughout my career, I've pursued what I'm interested in. I've started at like entry-level positions, worked my way up, and gotten promotions based on talent and skill and people observing that I have a lot to offer. And so sometimes I feel resentful that you need these letters behind your name when you apply, especially if you're sending a resume in somewhere and there's nothing like that on there, then you're definitely going to have a harder time getting in. At the same time, I think it means something to have those letters. Obviously, from this conversation, you've done something. I mean, you've shown that you can stick in there, that you can accomplish something on a specific timetable. And
Take about 15 more seconds, Julie.
okay. And so I just get torn about whether we as a society should be more lenient about how we measure people's skills, like applicants' skills, for example, or whether it's fair enough to say, well, if you've got the degree, you're showing me something I need to know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your experience and perspective, Julie. Very, very apt and relevant to the conversation. Rita, do you have a comment about experience here, or do you want to ask a question?
No, I actually have a comment. And like Julie, I just want to also congratulate all of our speakers here. And, you know, it takes a lot of hard work. The older we get, you know, the more challenging it can be to do some of these things. So I just think I'm really proud of everyone here. And Brittany, I wanted to say that I especially connect to your comment about we should be trying to do things that we really love, because we have to do that for many, many, many years. So I'm one of those that is on board. But then again, I was one that didn't necessarily have big material wealth visions. You know, I could have been happier with a lot less. And some people, you know, they have that vision for bigger things materially. But I do have somewhat of a question for anyone here. When I was in school, I graduated in 1976 from high school. But during my high school years, though, we had the advantage of, I was actually involved in a work study program where I guess it was my 11th or 12th grade year, I actually would go to school half a day and then work half a day. Now, I had already started working because I came from a lower income family, and, you know, I wanted a lot of things that you know, some of the other people that I knew had, but my family couldn't afford it. So I went to work at TG&Y Stores Company, which all of you are probably too young to even remember them, but I worked for them for 6 years, and I got it was just such a great experience. And it was a class that we did. And there were several of us that would go to school half a day, then we'd go to a job for the rest of the day. And our employers would rate us, you know, they would grade us on the work that we did for them. And I do know that personal experience with my children, my own children, their high school offered shop classes. My grandchildren right now are taking like health science classes where they're really learning a lot of great things. We actually had a beauty program also where girls could go to beauty school from high school and learn how to cut hair and do nails and all that. Is that still a part of the educational system?
Mm-hmm. Let's let's keep that as a question right now. I want to go on to some of the other hands. Speakers, keep that question in mind. Let's address that, but I want to go on to some of our other hands here. For people who have their hand up, I want to see if there's somebody who's recently graduated from high school or finished high school and went to college or joined the workforce, or if you're in community, maybe you're in college, community college, or a four-year college now, would invite you to say something next. Is there any of you with your hands raised you're like that? Yes, Hannah.
Hi. So yes, I'm currently in my second round of community college. I go to Allegheny, which is how I heard about this. But kind of what you were talking about, Rita, is actually when I was in high school, I was a part of a program that I did half high school, and then I went to nursing school for the other half of my day. It took, I graduated at 18 with my LPN. Which was amazing. And I wish that there was more programs like that. If I had the opportunity to change healthcare, I would give that opportunity to every high school student. It was, you know, a difficult challenge, but doable. And it really did set me up for success. I came from a low income family. There was no college fund for me. And ultimately that was why I did it, was to provide myself some type of working ability to go to school to have a different degree. And honestly, nursing stuck. And I've been a nurse for 12 years now. I tried to go back to college, actually right after I graduated high school with my LPN for my RN, and life gets in the way. Then I was a single mom for a long time. So again, Nikita, working all night, going to school all day, and then keeping 4 people alive. Like, you are and a social worker. It just speaks to the beauty of your heart. So, but these programs are real. It's Career Enrichment Center in Albuquerque. It was free, and you put in the work. It was worth it. And many of my friends that I went to school with did go to college right away. Most are nurse practitioners now. We're all in our early 30s, and if your job is in health sciences, you have to have the degree. There is no getting around it. And so college is kind of just it's a bridge, an expensive, time-consuming bridge. And I mean, no disrespect by this, but I have a very strong clinical background. And at this point, school, I loved sociology. That was an eye-opening, awesome class. But there are certain things that I will get out of this. This is an opportunity that I got out of it. But the actual schooling itself is kind of a technicality.
You feel that you have the clinical experience that you basically need to move on to the next certification or whatever.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Hannah. Thank you for sharing your experience. I'm going to go to Richard Aberdeen next, and I also just want to say I know that because I can see here we've got other people who are, I'm guessing, currently studying, whether in college or recently finished high school. We want to hear from you, and again, particularly if you're a first generation college student or decided to join the workforce immediately after finishing high school. So raise your hand and share your experience with us. Richard Aberdeen, over to you. Do you have a comment or a question? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Richard.
I graduated from high school in 1968, and that was during the height of the Vietnam War. And most people went to war or they went to work. Some people went to college to get deferred, but because I came from a blue collar background, we couldn't afford that. So I was lucky I got to work for the Teamsters, and I made a very good living without going to college. Later in life, I educated myself. I spent a long time educating myself. And then I went to college, and I was disgusted by our science class. And so I challenged to the teacher what the book said, and I got kicked out of college for challenging the teacher. That's something you can't do in college, which I think is insane. I think every student should be able to challenge what their book says. But as far as I understand, things haven't improved in college as far as teaching you basic science information. You're not going to get good information. It's not what scientists believe. It's certainly, there's a 50% of American scientists believe in God based on legitimate surveys. 75% of American physicians believe in God, and 80% of American educators believe in God. That's based on college surveys. University of Chicago and Scripps, I think the other one's Scripps University. And their voice is not heard in science class. Their opinions are not heard in science class. And I have a very bad attitude about education in America based on what I know, based on teachers I've known, and based on a lot of study I've done myself. Nevertheless, I know you have to get especially for health field, you have to get a degree in that. And America is way behind because we don't offer free university, and we certainly should. We're way behind the Western world as far as our people are poorly educated overall. I'm not talking about any individual person, but overall. And I think a professor who charges for his own book and students have to pay for it, I believe he should be fired. I don't believe he understands what it is to be a teacher. But I think students should pay a nominal fee for books. They shouldn't go broke after the.
Take about 15 more seconds, Richard.
Okay, I've said my piece.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience, Richard. Fascinating background and story that you bring to this. Catherine Anderson, let's go to you. Do you have a comment or a question?
I have a little bit of both. So I want to thank the panelists. What a wonderful, thank you for sharing your experience with us. My question is, without the benefit of, say, scholarships or financial aid, what would the bill look like at the end of your college? When you get that wonderful degree that you can hang on the wall, what does that dollar number look like? Because it's been a long time since I've been in college proper, and I'm a little out of touch with what that number is today. And I guess so I could say this, I accidentally fell into trades. So I was managing a gas station for $6.50 an hour, and had the the blessing opportunity to was introduced to an apprenticeship, and out of that I got to go to school. It was school full time, work full time. I too, single mother of two, but it was another avenue rather than going to college proper, I call it.
What was the apprenticeship in, Catherine?
So I am a journeyman sheet metal worker, marine industrial. So as a result of that, I did achieve an AA industrial trades technician. And I work for Washington State Ferries out here in the Seattle area. I've been with them for 17 years, but I still, because I don't have, and I'm an office worker now. I do sit at a desk, and but I still don't seem to have those doors open because I don't have that. You know, I just got a new job, and I kind of sit at the table with people with bachelor's and master's in business administration, and I often feel a little overwhelmed because they're talking a little different language than I am. And besides that, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so I really I turned 50 last year. I have no plans of growing up. I've done so many different things. It's been wonderful. But I really want to applaud Ramelo's, yes, let's go all the way back to middle school. Let's expose people to all sorts of different things. Because I know, you hear the 6-year-olds, I want to be a fireman. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. Because those are kind of those big shot things that we see. And definitely thanks to, I forgot her name, but it really isn't about the money.
Yeah, Brittany.
Where's your passion at? So I just want to thank the panelists. That was great. But again, I want to know what does that bill look like at the end of your experience?
Yeah, let's hear from the panelists just briefly. What's the bill? Nikita, go ahead.
Okay, so for in-state tuition at ACM, it's $8,270 without scholarships, or I'm not sure if financial aid factors in it, but yes,
Is that per semester, per year, Nikita, per semester?
Per year.
Okay.
And if you're out of state, it's about like 10,000 and something. And that's the tuition cost. Now, if you're eligible for financial aid, then you will be granted based upon income, your tax statements, or when you file taxes. But that's what the bill looks like.
All right. Anybody else, any of the other panelists have anything to add to that? Go ahead, Annette.
Yeah, I just know that at University Maryland Global Campus, which is, university for the psychology, bachelor's in psychology, it's $300 a credit. One class is, one 3-credit class is almost $1,000. So if you need, it could be up to 120 credits that you're going to need to graduate from that 4-year college. It depends on what you have going in, but on the high side, 120 times 300, um, I don't know what that is, but it's more than I can afford if I had to
Our
pay
math,
for
our
it
math
out of
majors can
pocket.
tell us the answer there. Great. I want to move on here to Michael. Your hand is up. Do you have a comment or a question, Michael? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, comment and question. First off, my hat's off to all the young people here that work as hard as they have to get where they're at. As I said, I'm on the city council up here. We have a situation. So this is a question to the panelists, or presenters. We are in a rural community. We have been identified by the industry. We're trying to bring industry in here. Been told we won't even look at you for a combination of things. One is we have an untrainable workforce. We have third generation, never had a family member hold a full-time job. Then we also have a problem of almost all the housing up here that's being built with government money is for low cost housing. Therefore, if somebody wants to come in here and work like in the medical field, we're really in trouble. We do not have housing for them.
So you said you don't have the what for them?
We don't have housing for workers. All the housing that's being built up here with government money is for basically unemployed, or there are agricultural workers, some housing for agricultural, but to create real jobs up here, we can't. We have one, like I said, we have an uneducatable workforce by these surveys. And my question of the panelists is, do you have thoughts? I mean, you folks have pulled yourself up by the bootstraps. And I've been working, I'm 81, I've been working since I was 9 years old. I've had businesses, I'm retired military, government, aviation. I have a lot of experience. And I left high school when I was 17 and joined the Army because high school was so boring, 1950s. I joined the Army and 2 weeks later had GED. So I don't mean to tell stories, but to give some background where I'm coming from. And my question, if any panelists would approach it, is any thoughts on how we can break these cycles?
And to clarify, you're saying, Michael, that the industries that you're trying to bring into your county are telling you, look, we can't because we're looking at our surveys and this is this is the profile of the population is, and so we can't. That's what the industries are telling you?
Yes, there's all kinds of surveys out there, studies that loans and grants and
Sure.
based on, but there's apparently a national organization that identifies areas who has identified not our whole county. I don't know about the whole county, although we are rural, but our particular location into the county.
Okay, so I'm going to go to any of our panelists here. Any one of you want to address that? Go ahead, Annette.
Okay. Everybody is educationable. Whatever that means. We can all be trained. Anyone can learn. That's number one. I think it's the approach and possibly the stigmas attached to certain populations that may make it more difficult for people to get into the jobs that they might actually be interested in. They may not have the opportunity to even, if we would bring it back into, like we were talking about, elementary schools, high schools, to where these third generation kids could see what else is out there and have something that's hands-on they can learn. They don't have to necessarily go to get a master's degree in anything. If they can learn a skill, something more than just, the entry level McDonald's. I hate to pick on McDonald's. There's really nothing wrong with that, but something that they love to do, something they enjoy doing. If they had opportunities to learn what their passion is earlier on, I really don't think there would be a problem teaching them anything. I don't think it's certainly not the people. People can learn. People want to learn, basically. I think it's the fact that a lot of surveys seem to assume certain things that are probably not true. If they would actually talk to the people rather than the people who think they know the people, they would probably get a lot further.
Thank you. That Nikita, I think, is your hand up, Nikita? Go for it. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Unmute yourself, Nikita.
I wanted to piggyback off of what Annette said, that everyone is, you can educate pretty much anybody, or, basically provide that education, for anyone who's willing to learn. I guess I would assess the situation a little bit more to see, are these I guess adults that are, applying for these jobs that are not eligible for these jobs. I would, see if they struggle with adult, literacy, because adult literacy is pretty much a problem. It's a very big problem, especially in America. There are a lot of illiterate adults, and when you add illiteracy to the myths, yes, that creates a lot of problems, health disparities, job shortages, because people do not have the basic skills such as reading, writing, and you do need those basic skills. You do need some type of education in order to hold any job. I mean, you can learn skills, but you also need to learn how to read and write. So, that's something that I would, kind of pay attention, to. And believe it or not, there's a lot of adults who cannot read or write, or do not have the basic literacy skills. So I would, see if that was a problem.
Thank
If
you,
that
Nikita.
was a barrier. So.
I want to say that, Michael, thank you very much for for sharing a little bit of your experience and your question. And I just want to say that I think there's something to follow up here on it. Michael, maybe we can be in touch, and maybe there's a follow-up thing here with our panelists and others who are here today. Maybe we could do some follow-up work around this. So Michael, let's please be in touch. I'll chat you. Steph.
I am a member, so
Great.
they have all my information. Please contact me.
Social security number, all of that, right? We'll be in touch. Steph, I see that you, it looks like you want to get in on this. Go ahead, Steph.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you guys have had so much input that is so valuable. Nikita, everything you've said is just so love it. I'm a high school counselor, so yeah, all aspects of different paths are promoted, and the approach that we take is constantly being adjusted. And I think my position, school counselors and high school teachers, has such a huge role in what is going on in this conversation. And I'll keep it short and sweet. And all I will say is that there are some and many districts who are investing time and energy into promoting alternative post-high school opportunities aside from college, and that is an amazing thing that is happening. And I'm from California, moved to Minnesota, and so I have dual state experience in this, and I think it is a beautiful thing when a high school can say, there are other opportunities aside from four-year universities, and promoting that to students and finding and meeting them where they're at on their journey. And It is a beautiful process. I love, and this is my passion, to meet kids where they're at. So continue to have those conversations with our young adults. As a school counselor, I just think like this is my work. I love this, and we are continuing those conversations beyond college and 2 years colleges and trades and all these different options. So we're in it. I'm here. I represent you guys who are like doing different things, and I love you, and your commitments and your accomplishments are appreciated because it's happening. So yes, you guys are amazing. The work continues.
Thank you, Steph. By the way, whenever you see somebody do this on a Brave Angels event, it's jazz hands. It's a way of expressing appreciation for something that someone says. It's taken from Brave Angels debates where they incorporated that. So that's what that is. Corey, I'm going to go to you soon, but first I want to go to Jane and then Corey, and then I think we're going to begin wrapping up. Jane.
Thank you. I guess I want to speak directly to Ramelo. I taught a lot of years. I taught a lot of levels. I taught a lot of different folks, and his story just hit me really hard. I think what he had to say about reaching out to kids at middle school and high school is it. I mean, I think it's fundamental. Yeah, preschool, yeah, elementary school, but absolutely by middle school. If you don't catch them then, it's really hard. If they're in districts where if they're 3 generations without college or 3 generations without a full-time job, how are you going to get them? I mean, if you don't get them in middle school, and when I think of getting them, I think of number one, walking them onto a college campus or walking them into an employment opportunity that is awesome. Like Brittany says, you gotta be proud of what you do. You gotta love what you do. If you're not proud of it, if you don't love it, what hope do you have in life? You know, you don't have a lot of hope. And so I want to ask Ramelo a question. And also I noticed that Ramelo wanted to answer. And I think, you know, maybe didn't catch that. I saw that. He wanted to answer. And so I would love to hear his answer to the question that, I forget the gentleman's name, the city councilman, but I also want to ask Ramelo a question. That is, do you, Ramelo, remember a moment when you were 23, 24, something like that, there was a turning point? Like all the different things you'd experienced, working 3 and 4 jobs, you know, feeling like that wasn't the answer. And then suddenly you turned and you went another direction. So those 2 questions. No, I'll sign off.
That's funny because I was thinking about this maybe like 22 minutes ago. When I took my last GED test, it was for science. We had to take them all separate. I had to take them all separately through this program called LAYC in Silver Spring, Maryland. And typically they take about 2-3 days to email you back or to email me back. And I remember leaving the facility, getting on the bus, and I sat down and my email popped up and it said I passed the test. And that was like the first time I had ever felt, I mean, like literally where a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I know that's so cliche, but that's, I mean, the feeling that everything that I felt up here is as if there was just some unknown tension that I didn't know exists just began to release. And so once that happened, just the amount of jobs that I've worked, because I mean, just a little backstory, I guess I got like 3 minutes, I got like 2 minutes left. So I grew up homeless. I've been in 14 schools, 8 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 3 high schools. So I've slept in bus stations, gas stations, homeless shelters, things of that nature. So my whole working process, I was doing that without a GED. So by the time I attained my GED at 23, then it was, I think I quit my job. I think I was working as a server somewhere, and I just knew I wanted to go to school, and I started applying here at Allegheny, and I was supposed to come 2019 of January, and then some things happened, and I ended up coming in August. So it was really just I tried to put my focus towards certain things, trying to overcome the things that was frustrating me, which was very difficult to do, trying to, accept change. But it was really I think also, okay, so what it is that, I'm trying to hurry up, I'm sorry. What it is that,
You're good,
I
Ramelo.
think that a lot of youth tend to look at, these opportunities or, these things that, us adults try to push to them or advise to them. They may see it as forever. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be a job, a situation, a circumstance, that's just how it is when you're going through certain things. And even if it doesn't have to be traumatic, it's just, if you've never been through anything, then you just know, go to college, get a job, and move on. You know what I'm saying? So some people don't really necessarily know beyond to be able to plan for their lives and experience and that enjoying it as well. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say on that.
Can I follow just really fast?
Go ahead.
Was there
Sure.
a person? Was there a person?
Oh yeah. There was a person. It was an organization. It was the Latin American Youth Center, and so and it was one person in particular, Jeff, and who I still talk to. That's my mentor. It was just the way that I approach. At the time, I would argue. I was 21, and I would argue with 16-year-old girls, and I had no idea. It was like I just immediately snapped in the GED course, and instead of kicking me out, they asked me to pay attention to my tone and ask me, why is it that I am speaking in that way? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that's bothering me, that's making me react so quickly? And then they gave me a couple days off, and the next week, I just started watching like 15, 17-year-olds argue in the same GED course that I'm in. And then I'm realizing like, yo, bro, I've been doing this. I'm 22 years old. I've been doing this since I was a child. And I'm just, at that point, that's when I just started analyzing everything. So it was this approach to me, opposed to telling me that I'm a problem, I have an attitude issue and things of that nature. I need to get out and work on myself. It was more so analyze what's going on within me, and then kind of pay attention, not necessarily fault everybody for their wrongs, but to more so compare the fact and realize that, oh, I've done these things before in my past, so how can I work on them? So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Ramelo. I think we could have a We the People's Forum with each of our panelists here, and that would be quite its own thing. Thank you for sharing a little bit more of your story, Ramelo. Powerful stuff, and I hope you continue talking about these issues.
Thank you.
We are starting to move towards wrap up here. I want to go to, well, first of all, there's a feedback form that Apple has put into the Apple Muncie, our Zoom Pro here has put into the chat link a couple times. Apple, if you could put that back in again. If you've got feedback for what we've experienced here, please, we want you to fill it out and give us ideas for future topics that we could talk about. But please, we want your feedback. Everyone fill it out, a feedback form there. And then Corey, Zach, I'm going to go to you. Corey Zach is, she can tell us about herself, but she's, among other things, she's in community college now. She's a active Brave Angels member. She's a part of the We the People's Project leadership team. And Corey, talk about, I'm sure you have things you have things to say about the conversation, so feel free to include that. But then also talk to us about Brave Angels and why you're involved in Brave Angels and why you would encourage anyone who might be here for the first time to get involved with Brave Angels. So Corey, over to you.
Yay. So I apologize for being late, first of all. Had school and test and all that. So I'm so glad that I actually got to be here. I'm 36 years old. I'm a mother of 3, married, college student, just got my first full-time job after being a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. So my life's a little crazy right now. And I have a whole lot to say, but I'll keep it short and sweet. But the short and sweet of it is, I totally agree with Ramelo, because I have a middle school student. Like, I have a 15-year-old who's getting ready to be a freshman in high school. And I am one of those parents, and I'm so glad that I forget her name, but the high school counselor has said that there has been a shift from the narrative that 4-year college is the only way to go to now there's other options outside of that. And I've always told myself that I would always encourage my children to do whatever it is they're passionate about, whether that's go learn a trade, go to work for a year or two, and then go to college. Or if they find something that they're passionate about and it requires them to go to college, then that's what they do. It's really up to them. So I'm glad that there's been that shift. As far as Braver Angels goes, I've been a part of the We the People's Project since I believe, is it May of last year that we did our first forum?
Yes, that's right. We've been at it almost a year.
So I got the honor and privilege of being a part of the very first We the People's Forum that we did as this project was just starting up. And from then on, I was hooked. I love being a part of the We the People's Project and Braver Angels as a whole. I'm still getting acclimated with Braver Angels as a whole, but it's a very good organization. It gives people a voice that may not necessarily have one otherwise. And that's what I love about it. Because a lot of times when you see presidential debates or like politicians debating on television and whatnot, these people are, most of the time they have master's degrees, and they're using language that maybe a lot of people won't be able to understand or fully comprehend, but they know what they're talking about. They just want to sound good for us so that we'll vote for them. Does that make sense? So I like that Braver Angels gives a voice to the working class people, the people who are the most important when it comes to the issues of America. And it gives people like me who enjoy these kinds of conversations. I enjoy listening to the stories of people and what they've overcome to get where they are. Or I've learned a lot in the organization too. I still am very opinionated, but being a part of the We the People's Project has taught me how to listen, how to be a better listener, how to absorb opinions of other people that may not necessarily align with mine. Oh, excuse me. I apologize. I've had a cold for a few days. But it gives me a chance to listen and train and hone my listening skills and be like, oh, okay, I can see that perspective. So if you're looking for a place like that, if you want to be able to have a voice, if you don't feel like you have one, I feel like Braver Angels is one of the best places for you to get engaged in whatever way possible, whether it's becoming a member, attending forums like these, because we do these once a month, or we also have other events that we as a project do, and then also Braver Angels. I would encourage anybody who's interested, go visit the Braver Angels website. I think it's braverangels.org, is it not?
Got it.
So go visit them, take a look at the organization, get involved, and find places in your state. Because they put events on in almost every state. So
yes. Go ahead, Corey.
So my suggestion is, if you want to know more, go visit the Brave Angels website. I'm open to emailing with anybody who wants to know more of my story. If you want that, I'll more than gladly give you my email so we can be in touch. And then, honestly, if you haven't gotten involved, I would encourage anyone that wants to get involved. It's a great way to get your voice out there and your story out there.
Corey, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story and your experience here. And indeed, go to braverangels.org and click become a member and join us. And We the People's Project is a project at Braver Angels. And again, you can learn more about this at braverangels.org/WPP. Our next We the People's Forum is May the 9th. And Corey, who we just heard from, is going to be a speaker at the next one. We're going to be talking about homelessness. And actually, I think a couple of our speakers for that next one are here with us today. And I don't know, I'm going to get the names wrong.
Catherine.
But go ahead, Rita.
Catherine Anderson. And let's see, Catherine King.
And Cynthia King, right?
Cynthia King, I'm sorry, yeah. I don't know if Cynthia's still here or not, but.
So our next We the People's Forum is May the 9th. And the question is there a one-size-fits-all approach to addressing homelessness? And we're going to hear from speakers who have experience with homelessness or work with people who experience housing issues and are homeless. And so look for that. I just put a chat with the registration information for that. So to close us here, I want to ask this question. What are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight? What are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight? Feel free to just raise your hand and just in a brief sentence, just say what comes to mind, what you're taking away with you. And then we're going to end with asking our speakers to address that question. Go ahead, Richard, in one sentence, what are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight? And go ahead and unmute yourself, Richard.
I'm encouraged to see that there's so many people that are trying to make their way in life and get a leg up by going to school. Or I would just recommend you can also go to trade school. You don't have to go to regular 4-year school. The Carpenters Union puts out a very good trade school. And you can make a lot of money in the Carpenters Union. So you don't have to go to college to make money.
Thank you, Richard. Michael, what are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight?
I'm encouraged, cautiously optimistic for the future when I listen to the young people here that are overcoming a lot of adversity to improve themselves. I want to thank them all for that.
I'm going to take the liberty of calling on some people. Alex, I don't know how to say your last name, Wiesenfels. What are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight?
Let's see. I'm taking away that it's written down here. Actually, I've been taking notes the whole time. So lots of good ideas. There we are. I'm taking away some answers to the question, what would people do if they could just if they could learn anything for free, essentially. Now I know I can have a better idea of how people answer that question.
Wonderful, thank you. Ethan Cassidy, I'm wondering, feel free to put on your video, and if you're able to tell us what you're taking away with you from our conversation tonight.
Hold on. For one thing, I think, oh man, everything I think these guys said, these are all real life experiences. They're all true. All mid finances are all for college. Yeah, they're tough, but everything they worked so hard. That's real credit. I commemorate these four, so that's really good job, you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Ethan. Melissa Kay, what are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight?
I'm just glad to know that people, I'm not the only one struggling with finances, balancing work and home life and finances. So yeah, it's comforting to know that I'm not the only one.
Capria.
Actually,
Let's see, we'll get this right. I'm going to unmute you on the other one. There's two of you here. There's two things here. Try it again, Capria.
okay, can you hear me now?
It's kind of loud, but go for it just briefly so we can hear you.
Capria, if you have your phone, that's what happens if you've got the phone and the computer. So choose one of them to use.
While you're thinking about that, I'm going to go to
I think
go for it. Yeah.
So actually, I can say that take with me that I'm not the only one. So a lot of the stories was relatable.
Great, thank you. And the next time you're on, Capri, we'll get the audio issues figured out. I apologize for that. Catherine Anderson, what are you taking with you from a conversation tonight?
It's just so wonderful to see there's so many people with the same heart. Like we're all wanting to make this better for young people, old people, all of us. So it's just nice to be in a room of like-minded, forward-thinking people that are coming with solution other than complaints. And just really honored to spend time with the panelists. Keep up the good work. Very proud of you.
Let's go to our panelists. Brittany, let's start with you. What are you taking away with you from our conversation tonight?
I think that, not that I lost the fire in my soul, but I think it lit it, because just hearing everyone's stories and just I guess knowing that I'm where I need to be, the reassurance was nice. So
Nikita.
Well, first and foremost, I'm taking away that whether you are in higher education or you're taking a trade, that knowledge is power, and education should be, and it should be, or it's priceless. Like, you can't put a price tag on education.
Ramelo.
I'm so sorry, I hit the wrong button. What I'm taking from this is just that there are just a lot of people in this world that are very like-minded, and we all have more similarities than we think. Whatever background that we come from, I think that there's a lot of people who have the ability to comprehend. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to communicate with them. And I think, just as someone said, amongst just having the space to have to pause and listen and take things in. So this it's refreshing, being around, as someone said, like-minded people. Yeah, just taking together just taking from this is the togetherness that we have and trying to come to solutions, even if it's things that we cannot do physically or literally. It's just a matter of being able to provide information and different types of news to people, opposed to continuously arguing and not having any type of solutions, being more positive minded.
Annette, last word.
I feel like this kind of a conversation with people is so much more fulfilling than having a typical board meeting or that sort of format, to where everybody is just so structured and people are afraid to say what they really think. I wish that we could get together like this within the educational systems, have the people just sit around and talk and get real. And it seems like that way things might actually start to come together. People might end up with solutions that make sense if they just talk and listen to each other.
And I have to go to one last person here, and I wanted to go to you earlier. Diane McMahon is from the Allegheny College of Maryland and was very instrumental in putting this together. Diane, what are you taking away with you from this conversation, and anything else that you want to say about you helped to lead Allegheny County Choose Civility, which is a co-sponsor for this. So feel free to, anything that you want to share about any of those organizations and what you're taking away with you from tonight.
First off, I'm so lucky to be here with everybody. I'm so proud of you. I love your story. I love to hear your story more than I love education. I like to learn, but I learn more from people's stories, is what I've found out through my life. But this is an important day in Allegheny County in Maryland. We are in Western Maryland, and it's our Choose Civility Day, April 7th. And it's every year, April 7th is our Choose Civility Day. And why we started it was maybe the same reasons that Braver Angels started. It was the political polarization that was happening around the presidential debates, and how it was taking away from us being people together that care about each other. All of a sudden, we got all involved with who's voting for who. So Choose Civility is a lot like Braver Angels in the sense that we want to hear your story. We want to know what you care about, and we want you to know that we care about you too. And so I'm really so honored to be part of it, David. And Annette Ritter is the big one that really made this happen. She's a member and she put this together. So thank you, Annette. That's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Diane. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. Let's go out there and build a house united. Good night, everyone.